This message comes from Greenlight. Parents say financial literacy is the hardest life skill to teach. Greenlight's debit card and money app for families makes it easy for kids to learn to earn, save, and spend wisely. Start today, risk-free at greenlight.com/NPR.
A few years ago, songs that were topping the Billboard Hot 100 might have sounded like this.
It's about damn time.
Or this.
I'm a savage.
But lately, the songs that are getting the most replays are sounding more like this.
Hopeless, hallelujah. Hope this side of heaven's gate.
And a little further down on the charts, like this.
It is well, hallelujah. Oh, oh, oh.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down? The Hot 100 has been getting a heavy dose of piety and prayer lately.
It's an unusual thing for multiple Christian artists to be on the Billboard Hot 100 at the same time, and that's happened right now.
That's Kelsey Kramer McGinnis.
I am a reporter for Christianity Today, covering music and congregational worship practices, and I'm an adjunct professor at Grandview University.
She even has a name for this unusual amount of faith-flavored music on the charts.
Barstool conversion rock. It's sort of this interesting web of things between masculinity, kind of conservative politics, country.
It's the type of music two guys can share a beer over and reflect on the simple things in life, like the goodness of God.
I mean, you even have, Jelly Roll, Shabuzi, Alex Warren, a whole collection of, I would add, primarily male artists making this kind of faith-flavored music and really making breakthroughs with it.
And it's not just the Hot 100. Over the past years, Spotify streams of Christian contemporary music have grown 60%. The market and appetite for Christian music seems to be swelling.
There are some Christians who look at that and say, revival is coming. There's a sign of something that's happening. I'm less convinced of that, but I do think it's an interesting question to ask. Why might the messages in this music be resonating with people, especially young people at this moment in time? I think there might be something to that there is a search for music that feels like it's looking beyond themselves, beyond the small kind of internal world and outward. It's worth kind of saying, well, what else is happening around us?
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Well, y'all, it's almost the end of the year. And before we get into one of the biggest trends of the year, I want to look back. We've been through a lot together in 2025. Through this show, we've laughed together and learned so much. And meanwhile, NPR and local stations have been going through it. Federal funding for public media was eliminated, and we've seen unprecedented attacks on the free press. Despite all that, NPR is still here for you. And you can help keep this public service you rely on going strong into the new year. If you're already an NPR Plus supporter, thank you so much. We see you, and we are so grateful. If not, please join the community of public radio supporters right now before the end of the year at plus.npr.org. Signing up unlocks a bunch of perks like bonus episodes and more from across NPR's podcasts. Plus, you get to feel good about supporting public media while you listen. Sign up today at plus.npr.org. And I also left you a link in the description of this episode. Thank you so much. Okay, so I need a little bit of context. So to start us off, what exactly is Christian contemporary music, or CCM?
Gosh, that's such a good question. So I tend to talk about it like an industry. So CCM is not a genre so much as it is like a media ecosystem that really became popular in the 1980s and 1990s, at least popular in the way that it is now. So this music mirrors what you'd hear on mainstream radio in terms of like style and characteristic,
Okay.
but you wouldn't have the objectionable content. So Think, no sex, no drugs, those kinds of things.
Oh, like Amy Grant?
Yes, like Amy Grant.
This is kind of a throwback reference, but I know she started in contemporary Christian music and then crossed over into mainstream pop with songs like Baby Baby.
Baby, baby, the stars are shining for you. And just like me, I'm sure that they adore you.
Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith. I mean, names that people might not know anymore, but those are like the big names. Its growth coincided with this kind of moment of cultural panic that brought together a lot of white evangelicals, think moral majority moment, politically speaking. And this industry really rose up because it offered an alternative to MTV, an alternative to hot radio. You had parents that were worried, the teens are listening to this music that has all this objectionable content. Here is this kind of clean Christian version of it.
I see. Why, if CCM has been around, right, for some decades, like there have been big names who are making this kind of music. Why is it seeing this surge right now?
Well, there have been multiple surges in CCM, sort of these like crossover moments. There have been multiple of them over the past 3 decades. So Amy Grant would be one. In the early 2000s, if we were having this conversation, we'd be having it about Switchfoot and a couple of like Christian rock bands.
Whoa,
right?
throwback.
Like
Jars of Clay.
Yeah. And you'll remember that like Switchfoot had this moment where, they were on the soundtrack to this Mandy Moore movie, A Walk to Remember.
Oh, yeah, I saw it in theaters. Mm-hmm.
There was this moment in the 2000s where you had Christian bands that were making a lot of inroads in alternative rock music. And those scenes were really closely tied together, but we didn't have streaming yet.
So basically, we haven't really seen this kind of surge in Christian music since the early 2000s.
So this is the first time post-streaming we've had this moment of breakthrough for Christian music into the mainstream. And we're seeing a lot more data about that than we have been in the past. I would say the other thing that's different about this moment is that this is happening at a time when contemporary worship music specifically is having a moment, not just the pop-styled Christian music. So in the past, it's been Amy Grant succeeding in being a pop star who is Christian, or Switchfoot succeeding in being a rock star that is also Christian. But now it's worship music specifically, which is a very specific kind of CCM, music that is designed and envisioned and marketed as music for use by congregations.
Like not for like radio play or like stadium, but like when you go to church on Sunday, this is the music everyone's singing together. Gotcha.
Yeah, you might sing this music.
I see. So when you used to think of Christian music on the airwaves, you might think of someone like Kirk Franklin. Or Mary Mary. But now the music that's really hitting is this super specific style of worship music that CCM artists are writing specifically for you to sing in church.
And so Brandon Lake, who's this Christian artist who's kind of had this explosion all of a sudden through these collaborations, he is a worship pastor at a church in South Carolina. And that, I think, is unique about this moment.
Where's my choir at?
There is this figure who is seen as almost like treating his audience as a congregation.
A whole generation declaring that Jesus is the only way. He is the truth.
And offering them this kind of very direct spiritual encouragement. And I don't really know what the exact why is, but for some reason, audiences are responding to that kind of message and to this faith-flavored music in an interesting way right now. And he's not the only one.
That's an interesting connection, that there's a surge in Christian music because, as you said, many of these male artists are essentially preaching to fans of their music, that there's a market for that kind of musical and spiritual performance. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about categories here like CCM, gospel, worship music. Why should we be paying attention to these categories? Like, why do they matter?
Well, when we talk about the reasons why CCM and gospel have historically been divided into different categories, uh, and you can trace that history back to similarly the way we trace the division between like country and R&B, right? Into the history of race records, the way that different music has been marketed to different racial groups in the US really since the beginning of the recording industry. And, you know, country music and CCM are both based in Nashville.
And then you have gospel, which typically comes from the Black church. Think soaring vocals, mass choirs, and praise breaks, as opposed to kind of like the more mellow country tinged sounds of CCM. And now you're seeing Black gospel artists crossing over into the historically white CCM territory, right?
Now, the gospel crossover is an interesting question because I like to watch for what elements of gospel artists like Maverick City Music or Dante Bowe or CeCe Winans are sort of allowed to bring with them into CCM. Because like you mentioned, there are elements of gospel music as practiced in churches that are not brought in, right? Like the improvisation, the praise breaks, the harmonic complexity. If you really listen to a lot of the music, popularized by Maverick City, they bring with them instrumentation, they bring vocal style, they bring a lot of aspects that sound sonically like gospel music, but there are some pieces that they don't bring with them because white churches won't know how to make that music.
Right. The sound is different. The musical lineage is different. And a lot of that is rooted in segregation.
So there is still this element of kind of church segregation, even shaping the ways that this music is made and produced and marketed. And not just marketed to radio audiences, but marketed to churches. That's the CCLI piece of this.
Oh.
Christian Copyright Licensing International tracks the use of music across churches. And there's a reason why so much of the music in there is tracking what's being used in white churches. And there's not as much music that is regularly used by Black churches there. So all of this is shaping the Christian music industry and the sounds of popular Christian music as we watch this all unfold.
Coming up,
Why might this music be resonating? What does it tell us about masculinity and conservative politics and the search for faith at this moment?
stay with us.
This message comes from Jerry. Are you tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/NPR today.
This message comes from NPR sponsor, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Finding the right leads can feel like an endless search for sellers. What if you could get to the right conversations faster? From finding new leads to strengthening existing relationships, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is your strategic AI-powered partner. It cuts through the noise with real-time data and insights, backed by LinkedIn's network of over 1 billion professionals. Try it free for 60 days at linkedin.com/benaminute. That's linkedin.com/benaminute. Terms and conditions apply. This message comes from Wise, the app for using money around the globe. When you manage your money with Wise, you'll always get the mid-market exchange rate with no hidden fees. Join millions of customers and visit wise.com. T's and C's apply. This message comes from NPR sponsor eBay, who is home to millions of parts for your next project and free returns. If it doesn't fit or it isn't what you expected, eBay has your back. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay. Things people love.
So CCLI is basically licensing their music to different churches, which is used way more in white churches than Black churches. And the money behind the CCM machine is basically shaping the culture of contemporary Christianity and thus the entire musical ecosystem. I know that a big part of that has been mega churches and how mega churches kind of play into all of this. I'm thinking of, churches like Bethel or Hillsong. I've been to a Hillsong service here in New York. And something that was apparent in the space, where this is like a theater space in New York, and it's not your traditional church, and people are dressed casually. And the pastor was wearing leather pants on Mother's Day. Like, it was like so stylized and very contemporary. But it was clear from being in the environment that the music was meant to be a big draw. And so I wonder, like, how do these big mega churches like Hillsong or Bethel play into the economy of this worship music? There's a big economy around this.
Yeah, there is a big economy around this. And I would say that probably for at least 20 years or so now, that megachurch experience has been driving the style and format and intended effect of a lot of CCM, what I would call contemporary worship music. You can find resources, we call it multi-tracks or stems, that are created for churches to basically plug and play, you can buy the padding synth effect that goes underneath this Bethel song.
Oh, so you can like recreate like the studio
Yes.
experience in your church.
100%. So there is a whole industry underneath this music that exists purely to help churches recreate the experience of being at one of these mega churches as closely as they can. Even if I go to a church of, 150 people on a Sunday morning, if I don't have 20 musicians on stage, I can buy a couple synth parts. I can buy an electric guitar part. I can buy background vocals. I can buy choir effects. I can purchase lighting. All of these pieces that make it closer to what you'd see when you watch a recording by Bethel.
That's interesting. Wait, so talk to me about the CCM machine, like how the music kind of feeds the growth of these churches, but also how like the huge resources that these churches now have kind of have allowed for this big growth spurt in CCM.
So the interesting thing about CCM and contemporary worship music is that there are a lot of different potential revenue streams. So if we look at a church like Bethel, for example, use Bethel, based in Redding, California. Bethel has Bethel TV, which is its kind of multimedia platform that has a ton of viewers around the world. And it generates revenue for that church. The church has also started its own record label, so it can kind of do a lot of the management of its musicians in-house, which is also lucrative for that as a church. This music also generates revenue through the use in churches. Every time a church uses a song written by Bethel artists, it generates revenue for those artists.
Whoa. I mean, that's basically how things work in the music industry. It's like you have to get the right to perform something so that the original artist can profit. That's wild. Wow.
Yeah. And Bethel happened to become popular at the moment when streaming was rising and social media was also growing exponentially. And so they've really been able to capitalize on getting eyeballs, not just ears, but eyeballs on what they're doing. So they have YouTube monetization. They have Instagram monetization. And you have this kind of cycle effect where people are discovering this music on Instagram. Maybe they're going to their worship pastor and saying, "Did you hear this new song from Bethel?" So they're requesting the song, then the church uses it. Then maybe someone in the congregation hears it and they say, "I love that song." And they go find it on streaming and they listen to it. And it creates this feedback loop where this music is getting discovered and used over and over again. And the churches that are producing the most of it are really seeing a lot of revenue and a lot of listenership growth.
Wow. I am wondering like why this trend, why this growth is something that even people who don't listen to this music and aren't Christian and aren't a part of this culture should be paying attention to.
Well, I think there are some Christians who look at that and say, revival is coming. There's a sign of something that's happening. I'm less convinced of that, but I do think it's an interesting question to ask. Why might the messages in this music be resonating with people, especially young people at this moment in time? I think there might be something to that there is a search for music that feels like it's looking beyond themselves, beyond the small kind of internal world and outward. It's worth kind of saying, well, what else is happening around us? A lot of this music is made by men, and a lot of it is a little bit country flavored as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to the extent that those things are all connected, what might be happening there? Why might this music be resonating? What does it tell us about masculinity and conservative politics and the search for faith at this moment? We have an administration right now that talks very openly about wanting to fight against anti-Christian bias out in the world. And it's hard not to look at that and then look at celebration over Christian music featuring prominently on American Idol and seeing a certain segment of evangelicals feeling like this is our moment.
Interesting. Well, oh my gosh, I feel like my curiosity has been satiated for now. Kelsey, thank you.
Thank you.
So lately, I've been ending the show by asking all of you to rate and review this show. And oh my gosh, have you shown up? The ratings are going up and more people are following the show. One of you wrote that this is, quote, such a magical podcast. Another one of you said that this show made you start listening to podcasts for the first time. Let's keep the momentum going and keep growing this community. Help out by rating or reviewing the show wherever you're listening. And thank you. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Corey Antonio Rose.
This episode was edited by
Nina Patak.
Our supervising producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our executive producer is
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more. This message comes from Donors Choose. Donors Choose connects public school teachers with donors to fund classroom needs, including school supplies like books and art supplies. Donate now at donorschoose.org/local. This message comes from Solidigm. Yesterday's approach to storage can't meet the demands of today's AI ambitions. Bigger, faster, and more energy efficient, Solidigm solid-state storage solutions are optimized for AI. Learn more at storageforai.com.